Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him.
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, February the 5th, coming to you from Larnaca, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with the end of the New START treaty. It has officially expired, and we are in a very dangerous place. The world is in a very dangerous place. Putin offered to Trump a couple of months ago to extend the New START treaty, at least for another year, while they negotiate things out, because Trump wants to negotiate another treaty, and he wants to include China, because Trump feels that it's unfair that you have Russia and you have China, and they're both aligned together, and will have more nuclear weapons than the United States, and he doesn't like that. He thinks it's unfair. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't like it that China and Russia are aligned together, and they do have a whole lot of nuclear weapons. But you know what? There is no one to blame other than the United States. Not specifically Trump, but Trump. I guess you could say Trump in his first term. Definitely Obama, Trump, definitely Biden, no doubt about it. Biden did a lot of damage pushing Russia and China together. Biden pissed off China a whole lot, especially with Taiwan. Obviously, you have Ukraine, Project Ukraine, and yeah, this created a kind of alliance. I think we can call it an alliance. They don't call it an alliance, but we'll call it an alliance. And they are BRICS partners. And between both of them, they have a whole lot of nukes. And the agreement was just between the United States and Russia, and Trump wants to include China, and he wants to make everything fair and square. So he let the New START treaty expire. And now we could have nukes popping up everywhere. Sweden wants nukes. Poland is talking about nukes. Germany is talking about nukes. You know, the neocons, they're probably up for getting nukes to Germany and to Poland, to Sweden, because the neocons probably think that by getting nukes to these countries, it threatens Russia and gives the United States leverage over Russia. But I don't think Russia's going to have any of that stuff going on. They are not going to allow Germany, Poland, or Sweden to get nuclear weapons. Anyway, we're still far off from that point, but this has to be negotiated. Trump has to agree to at least extend the current New START treaty one more year, and then he has to get serious and start negotiating this with Russia, and who knows, maybe China jumps in as well. So far, China has said no, we're not going to take part in the New START treaty. That's between the United States and Russia, but we'll see. Putin did speak to Xi Jinping yesterday, and we do know that they did discuss the expiration of the New START treaty, and Trump, I believe, spoke to Xi Jinping as well. So maybe something is happening there. But I expect the Trump administration to come to their senses and to realize how dangerous things can become without any kind of nuclear treaties in place. And I hope that they extend the current New START and begin negotiating on a new nuclear treaty. Medvedev posted on X, "That's it. For the first time since 1972, Russia, the former USSR, and the US have no treaty limiting strategic nuclear forces. SALT 1, SALT 2, START 1, START 2, SORT, New START, all in the past." And there's an image from Game of Thrones, I believe, where it says winter is coming. Not a very encouraging message from Medvedev, but he is making a point. And I think that the Trump administration should take his point into serious consideration and action so that we don't have some sort of a nuclear winter, because that's the risk we run if all of these treaties, especially the New START, if this treaty is just allowed to go away. So that's big news, actually. That is the biggest news of the day, the expiration of the New START. The other big news for the day is the Green Goblin gave an interview to French media. I believe France 2 is the channel that interviewed the Green Goblin, or as he is known in France, Le Green Goblin, or Levert Goblin. I think that's how you say green in French, vert. Levert Goblin. Bonjour, Levert Goblin. Bonjour. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Zelensky. S'il vous plaît. Bonjour, je m'appelle Zelensky. You have some money? Anyway, yeah, he gave an interview to French media and kids. Kids, please don't do drugs. Please don't do drugs, kids. What a bizarre freaking interview from Le Green Goblin. What a bizarre freaking interview. First of all, Zelensky looked awful. He looked like he hasn't slept for 3 months. He looked absolutely broken. I'm telling you. He looked like he has been partying for the past week. Hasn't slept for the past 2 weeks. But he said some crazy stuff. Zelensky, man, did he say some crazy stuff. Where to begin? Where to begin? So Zelensky, he said that if Ukraine does not stop Putin, then Putin will invade Europe. And he said that he does not want to scare anybody, but the range of their missiles is unlimited. They will strike everywhere. So that was his warning. If Putin is not stopped, then he will invade Europe and he will strike everywhere. And then Zelensky also said that the Russian military has not made any gains. They will not be able to capture Donbass. And if they were to try and capture the rest of Donbass, Donetsk essentially, they would need a force of 800,000 more corpses, is how Zelensky phrased it. Russia wants us to leave all of Donbass because since they started this war, they haven't won any victories. They don't count the people who die. We are obliged to do so. To conquer the east of Ukraine, it would cost them 800,000 more corpses. It would take them at least 2 years. They won't last that long. So Zelensky's logic is that Putin is going to invade and conquer all of Europe. That's on the one side. But on the flip side, Russia has not won any victories in the conflict. Not one victory. They haven't been able to win any victory. And if they were to even try and get a victory in Donbass, they would need another 800,000 soldiers. So which one is it? Is Russia going to take over all of Europe? Or has Russia not been able to win a single victory through the entirety of the special military operation? Which one is it? Unfortunately, the French journalist provided zero pushback on Zelensky with everything he was saying, with all the nonsense he was spitting out, and it just got worse, or it got more entertaining, the stuff that Zelensky was saying. He told the journalist, well, the journalist asked him, this war, Zelensky, are you afraid of losing it? Zelensky said, of course, losing this war means losing the independence of our country. If we lose our independence and become part of Russia, it would be an absolutely monstrous loss. I'm sure that it won't happen, he said. They lost their independence. Ukraine lost its sovereignty in 2014 with the Maidan coup, when the legitimately elected government, the internationally recognized legitimately elected government, was overthrown by Kukis Nuland and John McCain, and the Europeans as well. Sikorsky was also there. But anyway, that is what he said about that. And then he threw out the casualty numbers for Russia, which has everyone talking, everyone scratching their heads, saying, what was this guy taking? What substances has Zelensky been taking? Because he claimed that Ukraine's losses through the entirety of the conflict are 55,000. Those are the losses for the entirety of the conflict. And he also said that, a week or two ago, he said that Russia's losses in 1 month were what, 40,000 or 35,000? And he is now saying that through the entirety of the conflict, the casualties are 55,000. That was his claim, his statement to French media. Zero pushback, by the way. Here is a post from AMK Mapping, which is pro-Ukraine, pro-Zelensky, pro-Ukraine. I don't know if they're pro-Zelensky, to be quite honest. They do a very good job, AMK Mapping, but they're pro-Ukraine, no doubt about it. And they weren't buying this 55,000 number. I don't think anyone is buying this 55,000 number. Anyway, the post on X is, Zelensky claims that 55,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed so far in the war. A year ago, Zelensky claimed 46,000 Ukrainian soldiers had been killed. According to his logic, just 9,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died since, at a rate of 750 per month. In January 2026, Ukraine claimed that 35,000 Russian soldiers were killed in a month, which would give us a hypothetical claimed death ratio of 47-1 in favor of Ukraine. And then we have 14 months of fallen soldiers exchanged between Russia and Ukraine. Documented fact, the numbers of the exchanged soldiers. 14 months of exchanged soldiers. And the ratio across all those 14 months has held steady at about 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers to about 25 to 30 Russian soldiers every single month over the past 14 months. That ratio has held steady, 1,000 Ukrainian fallen soldiers to about 30, give or take, Russian soldiers. But Zelensky is now claiming that the ratio is 47-1 in favor of Ukraine. If that was the ratio, then why the panic? Why the panic from the collective West? Why the panic from the Trump White House? Why the panic from Zelensky? Why the panic from the Europeans? They're winning this war big time. I mean, big time they're winning this war. Ridiculous stuff from the Green Goblin. Anyway, he also said that there is only one, that looks like Ryanair. There is only one man that Putin fears, or there's one leader that Putin fears, according to Le Green Goblin. And that leader is U.S. President Trump. He is the man that Putin fears. And Zelensky says it's a fact. He knows for a fact that Putin fears Trump. And then he also told French media that Putin does not fear the Europeans at all. Yeah, so he mocked the Europeans, made fun of the Europeans while trying to kiss up to Daddy Trump. And of course, he wants more weapons and money and all kinds of things from Trump. Zelensky said Putin is currently only afraid of Trump. That's a fact. If President Trump knows that Putin is afraid of him, then he doesn't have to accept all the conditions set by the Russian president. It's Putin who is afraid of Trump, not the other way around. And thank God, President Trump knows he has leverage through the economy, through sanctions, through weapons. And then the journalist asked, does that mean he is not at all afraid of Europeans? And Zelensky said, yes, he is not afraid of Europeans. They are our partners. They have helped us enormously, but Putin is not afraid of them, unfortunately. He's not afraid of the Europeans, unfortunately. He's afraid of Trump now. Give me money and weapons, United States of America. Oh my God, what a crazy interview from Le Green Goblin. Anyway, Zakharova, she said that any NATO forces, she was speaking to the media, and any NATO forces that enter Ukraine, this is in response to Rutte's speech in Kiev, where he said that NATO forces will enter Ukraine the minute there is a deal by sea, by land, by air. And Zakharova replied to NATO CEO Pinocchio Tutti Frutti Rutte. She said that any NATO forces entering Ukraine will be treated as enemy combatants and they will be annihilated. So there will be no NATO forces in Ukraine ever, 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 ever. Zakharova also said that, speaking about Epstein, she said that the Epstein files expose how Western elites treat children. She also threw that out there as well. This should be my clown world, actually, this next news topic. But I have a different clown world, but this one should be my clown world because we are getting reports which claim that, well, not claim, we're getting statements from leaders of Baltic nations, I believe Estonia and Latvia, yes, Estonia and Latvia, they are now saying that it is time to talk to Russia. The time is now to open up dialogue with Russia, according to Latvia and Estonia. I had to read this article 3 or 4 times in order to believe it, but it is indeed true. These were statements made by the, I want to say the president or the deputy or vice prime minister on the sidelines of some conference or something. And sure enough, they did say it is time to speak with Russia. Basically, their point is that why should Trump be the only one that opens up negotiations with Russia? The Europeans should open up some sort of dialogue with Russia, appoint some sort of an envoy to go to Moscow so that we can have a seat at the table and look after the best interests of Ukraine. Amazing. The Baltic states are now talking about dialogue with Russia. The Latvian Prime Minister, Evika Salina, and the Estonian President, Alar Karis. This is what they said at the sidelines of a summit in Dubai. And we do have Reuters reporting that little Napoleon sent someone to Moscow on behalf of the French government to speak with Russia, to open up some sort of dialogue with the Kremlin. This is what Reuters is reporting. The man that they sent to Moscow was Emmanuel Bon, the diplomatic advisor to the French president, visited Moscow, Reuters reports, citing a source. The purpose of the visit was to establish a dialogue. The source did not provide any details. As the agency clarifies, the Élysée Palace did not confirm or deny this information. They're not denying it, which means that it has happened. So there you have it. The Baltic states, time to talk to Russia, France, already getting in position to begin dialogue with Russia. And Zelensky making it out as if Ukraine is winning, as if Ukraine is crushing it. So we have the Iran-US talks, which were canceled yesterday, and then they were rescheduled again. They were uncanceled, they were canceled, and then they were uncanceled. Now they're back on again. So Iran, the US came out with all kinds of demands. Iran said, look, these talks that are scheduled for Friday between our foreign minister Arakchi and Witkoff are going to focus only on uranium and the nuclear issue. But the United States was making all kinds of other demands on ballistic missiles and Iranian allies in the region and stuff like that. And then Iran said, you know, we want the location to be in Oman and not in Turkey. And so everything got canceled. And then a couple of hours later, everything was rescheduled again. And it looks like now we are going to have talks in Oman. And it does look like the talks will focus only on the uranium enrichment and the nuclear issue. For a brief moment yesterday, for a couple of hours, everyone was thinking, that's it. We are going to war. The United States and Iran are going to war. And then the foreign minister of Iran, Mr. Arakchi, posted nuclear talks with the United States are scheduled to be held in Muscat on about 10 a.m. Friday. I'm grateful to our Omani brothers for making all necessary arrangements. Vance gave an interview to Megyn Kelly, and Megyn Kelly, who was once on Fox, and now she's got her own channel, and she works with Sirius XM. But she managed to score an interview with the Vice President of the United States. And he was asked about Iran and Iran getting nuclear weapons. And Vance said that if Iranians get a nuclear weapon, you know who gets a nuclear weapon like the next day? Saudi Arabia. Yeah, but true. But it was the Trump administration in his first term that withdrew from the JCPOA. And the JCPOA had everything in check. The JCPOA was working and was recognized by the entire international community, including the UN, including the Security Council, including Europe. And it was Trump that pulled out of the JCPOA, not Iran. So everything was fine until Trump decided to pull out of that agreement. And by the way, if you're worried about Saudi Arabia getting nuclear weapons, why don't the Trump administration start negotiating the New START treaty so that we can make sure that not only Saudi Arabia, but all kinds of other countries, big and small, do not acquire nuclear weapons. If your concern is nuclear proliferation and perhaps Saudi Arabia getting nukes, well, then you should start negotiating a New START treaty, or at least extend the current New START treaty. Anyway, Vance was also asked about negotiations with Russia, and he made an excellent point, which we have made on the Duran many, many times for many years now, which is that even though the United States may not be in agreement with Russia on Ukraine, and they may have disagreements, they may be fighting, a proxy war in Ukraine, and they may have disagreements in other areas. They also have areas where they can work together, where their interests overlap, and that is why the United States and Russia should be speaking to one another and should be engaging in negotiations and talks. It's much bigger than just Ukraine, the relationship between the United States and Russia. And that's a point that we have made on the Duran many, many times. And Vance repeated that point. He said that meanwhile, we may disagree with Russia on a lot, but we may agree on some things, Vance told Megyn Kelly. And so when people say, well, you can't work with Putin on anything because you disagree with Ukraine invasion, well, the president said very clearly, Putin should not have invaded Ukraine. We're going to try to work and bring that to an end, but there might be some areas of cooperation too. So that was Vance speaking to Megyn Kelly, and Bill and Hillary Clinton will be speaking to Congress, to the House Oversight Committee or Judiciary Committee. I don't know what committee they're going to be speaking to, but it's all about Epstein and what was going on with Epstein and what was going on the Epstein Island. Bill Clinton might know a thing or two about that. And at first they said, the Clintons said, no way are we going to be speaking to Congress, testifying to Congress. No freaking way. We're above the law. We are above the law. And they are above the law, the Clintons, no doubt about it. Or at least they have been above the law for many, many decades. They will remain to be above the law. I would be shocked if they end up being at the level of the law like all of us are. But anyway, they have decided to now testify to Congress. So they have had a U-turn when it comes to the Epstein probe. And finally, we have the news from the DOJ that Ryan Ruth, the very pro-Ukrainian guy who tried to assassinate President Trump, he has been sentenced to life in prison. Very, very pro-Ukrainian Ryan Ruth. I believe he even traveled to Ukraine, to Kiev, and he tried to assassinate Trump, or at least he was planning to assassinate Trump, I believe, on one of his golf courses. And he has now been sentenced to life in prison. Let's do a clown world, and we can wrap today's video up. And Trump was being interviewed by NBC News, and he was asked about the operation to kidnap Maduro, and he was asked about the super weapon that was used, the Discombobulator. And I'll play the video for everybody of Trump explaining the Discombobulator. What exactly is the Discombobulator? And who came up with the name, the Discombobulator? Trump claims that he came up with the name Discombobulator, and he's very proud of the fact that he came up with the name Discombobulator. So I'll play the video of that interview with NBC News, and I will leave you for today as the sun goes down here in beautiful Larnaca. People are chilling out, walking on the beach. Some people back there are working out, doing pull-ups, and I'm going to go grab a coffee in that direction and get this video up. TheDuran.locals.com. We're on X, we're on Rumble, we're on Telegram, we're on Substack as well, so check us out on Substack. Link is in the description box down below, and go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, 26% off all merch in the Duran shop. There is a link to the Duran shop in the description box down below. Take care.
You talked about the weapon, the discombobulator.
Yeah,
What is that?
Discombobulator. Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
But what does it do?
Let me just tell you, you know what it does? None of their equipment works. That's what it does. Everything was.
How does it?
It was my name. I'm very proud of the name. Everything was discombobulated. It was, you know, practically a shot wasn't. You know, they were ready.
Right.
And when we came,
I mean,
they couldn't do anything.
You saw this on the video. You could tell.
Tom, it discombobulated everything.
Nothing worked, even including humans.
Well, let's
it knocks
put it
the
this
humans
way.
out.
We lost no equipment in a very strong, and they're good fighters, great fighters. In a very bad environment, it was a military base, the biggest in South America. In a very, because the house was in a base in in a very, very tough environment, we lost no men and we lost no equipment.
The discombobulator just knocked everything.
Well, it did something.